All right, I'm going all the way live. Yeah, I'm all the way live. Mm-hmm. All the way live. I'm all the way live. So awesome. All right, so I just noticed that I'm live. Okay, I am live, and I'm going to talk about gear. And what I want to talk about is studio gear, and I'm going to talk about the main pieces of gear in the recording studio, which would be microphone preamps, whether they're in a console or they're a separate unit, equalizers, whether they're in a console or separate units, and dynamics like compressors, gates, expanders. Then I'm also going to talk about effect units like reverb units and delays. And then there are also, of course, there's all kinds of effect units. And these are the bare key essential pieces of equipment in every studio. So I'm going to talk about that. And the first piece of gear I want to talk about is compressors. The reason why I want to talk about compressors because I believe in recording studios and even live sometimes the most abused or what is it? The most the gear that most people are not aware how to use properly would be compressors, EQs, reverbs, and delays. Most people can kind of figure out how to get a volume level on a preamp. You know, they'll kind of plug in whatever, whether it's an instrument or a microphone, and they can plug in a piece of equipment to the mic pre. But the most confusing portion for a lot of people that are not aware of gear, whether it's an actual physical piece of gear or a plug-in software, is the compressor, the EQ, reverb, and delay. And one of the thing with all these pieces of gear is they all seem to have pretty much the same common controls, that except compressors, EQs, they all do their job in a little bit different way. This is the reason why you see so many different varieties of compressors, EQs, delays, and reverbs and units. Oh, okay. We got a first person turn it. Paul Morgan. Thanks, Paul, for tuning in. I'm talking about studio gear and just talking about compressors, talking about reverbs, delays, just gear. Processing gear in studio. So that's what I'm talking about today. Feel free to chime in on the chats on what your thoughts, your inputs. Thanks. I love the channel. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate you being a supporter of the channel. And for tuning in. I usually do these live chats every Sunday as much as possible. And that's what I'm here to do, these live chats as much as possible. So the first, I'm just talking about gear. Last week I was talking about the industry, but we can talk about anything on the channel. We can talk about anything really, but I'm trying to concentrate on the gear. So on the compressor, you'll probably notice, that almost every compressor has the same 5 settings. And you're going to have your threshold. This is the point where you want the compressor to kick in accordance to the volume level. So the threshold is waiting for your volume level to hit. Once your volume level hits a certain volume level or a threshold, it kicks in. The attack is how fast we want the compression to kick in. Do I want to kick in aggressively? And sometimes if you kick it in a little too fast, you might not hear all the little nuances of the sound. So you can slow the attack down. The release is how much do you want the compressor to hold on to as it compress. But what gives the compressor the compression sound would be the ratio. And that's if you're doing 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 4-to-1, 8-to-1, almost to the point where you're limiting. A limiter would mean that no matter what, it cannot go, it can't compress past that limit. So you set the limit. Most of the time it's 21. So, and then there is most of the time when you compress the sound, which because a compressor is a dynamic or a volume controller, when you have to make up the makeup gain to bring the volume level back up. But the difference between a non-compressed sound and a compressed sound is when you bring the makeup gain back up, you're going to hear the compressed sound unless you bypass the compressor. DL says, hello, Mark. Hi, I'm good. Thank you for tuning in. I'm just talking about studio gear today. I'm talking about compressors, reverbs, delays, stuff like that, mic pre's, microphone, all that. I'm just talking about that. So I'm just talking about compressors right now. But if anyone has any questions regarding any of that, just feel free to chime in. I'm also, if anyone wants to add in to it, to caveat to what I'm saying, you can throw that in as well. But like I said, I'm just talking about compressors and EQs and stuff like that. Simply because compressors and EQs, reverbs, and delays are the tools that for someone that's beginning to record, most of the time do not know how to use properly. So going back to compressors, when you look at the threshold, that's just simply saying, and I probably should have did this in a different way where you could see, I could demonstrate, but I'm just going to try to talk you through it, because no matter whether you're using an actual hardware piece of gear in a rack or a plug-in, they all generally have the same 5 sets of tools: threshold, attack, release. They're going to have a ratio and they're going to have a makeup gain. But the thing is, there's different types of compressors. There's what they call VCA, which stands for voltage control amplification. VCA. There is VARMU, which is basically a tube type VCA. And then there is opto, where it's an opto cell. And then there is what they call FET, which stands for field effect transistor. So on that compressor, it's a matter of how that compressor reacts and how it compresses the sound. Okay. Deal says, how can a person get their sound good enough in the box to earn income with their productions and eventually buy outboard gear to get to the next level? Okay. I'm going to tell you the best way, because DAWs are designed to make your interface, because you're actually listening to your interface, right? A lot of times people think when they're doing everything in their DAW, they're listening to the DAW. And actually, you're doing things in your DAW, but the sound is coming from your converter. So the converter is programmed to react how you make it react. So let me explain. Let's say you take an interface. Let me grab this interface as an example, right? As you know, let's concentrate on the output, right? So most of the time, an interface like this, for example, this one has 8 outputs, but this section, which is the gray portion, is the master monitor out. So it's the same concept. It's the same concept if you were listening to the main master 2 outputs coming from this console. So in your DAW, you would literally have to tell the DAW to read if you had this one, and let's say you set this interface, in your DAW as your interface, and your DAW saws this as your interface, it's only default to the two master outputs, your monitor out, the 1 and 2. You literally have to direct it to tell it 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, or to 8, maybe 9 and 10. You have to tell the DAW to go to those outputs. So I'm saying this. Welcome, Andre. Welcome to the chat. I'm just talking about gear. So welcome. So to get your DAW to respond, to make it sound like a professional product, is your DAW is designed for you to set it up. And the DAW people that design these DAWs don't tell people this unless you already know. It's kind of like people that don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know what I don't know. So every DAW is designed to react like a real console. A lot of people probably didn't know this. This is the reason why it's important to set up auxiliary sends and buses. And what is done in what has been this has been done on analog consoles for years, is an engineer would set up all their sounds on all their channels. You know, like the drums, it'd be like, let's say, kick, snare, hi-hat, rooms, overheads, bass, keys, guitar, whatever, other, vocals, backgrounds, and all that, right? What they'll do is they never put all their effects on the same input. They always route them to blend the two. So they'll blend auxiliary sends to a different channel to put your effects and delays. That way you can blend those two together. And that's what makes it start to sound bigger and wider. And you can hear this. And they also run buses so they can group all set, like, for example, all guitars can be grouped together, all drums can be grouped together, all vocals can be grouped together. So they'll route to group buses. I have group buses here. You do this in your DAW. When you do this in your DAW, you will hear it. Especially when you listen to the monitor, you will hear the effect of that. And when you do that, that's how you can make doing stuff in the box. Because it's going to make your interface react the same way as if it's a console, it's just virtual. So that's how you can do that. So it's now is knowing what tools. Most of the time on a channel, the only thing that you really want to put on your channels is usually dynamics and gates, expanders, EQs. That's the only thing that you really want to put on a channel. You want to put all your effects separate. And that's the reason why your reverbs, your delays, or any type of effects and stuff like that are on a separate channel. If you do that in your DAW like it's being done on a console, you will get the exact same. You'll get the exact same effect, and it will start to sound the same way. It's just now knowing how to use the tools. How do I use an EQ properly? How do I use a compressor properly? When do I add a gate? A lot of times you want gate to control excessive bleed over. You don't want things bleeding through, so you put a gate so the signal cuts off, so it only hears that signal. There's a thing called mid-side, and there's also called side chaining and things like that. So just remember, set up some auxiliary channels in your DAW. That's where you're going to put your reverbs. Plate, vocal plate, drum plate, hall, chamber, on a separate, and then you can send whatever channels in your DAW like you would on the console to that specific channel if you want that channel to be affected by that. That's the whole point, because reverbs emulate space. Delays emulate a psychic, kind of like a effect from the time that the signal comes out to the time you hear it is a delay. So if that makes sense. Let me see. Welcome, John. Welcome, John, to the live chat. I'm just answering some questions and talking about gear. John says, I just got a DBX 166XX for $30 using the limiter, the Mackie 328 bus, and a warm audio G comp. Yep, G comp compressor. and I'm going to adding a drummer saturator to my mastering chain. The 166s the DBXs are good, pretty good. The Mackie 32.8 is basically, the Behringer I got is basically, it's the big old, it's the kind of like the knockoff to the Mackie. So I know which console you're talking about. I used to work on a Mackie 8 in the 90s. He also says, I'm learning to putting affordable gear together the right way is smarter than paying so much for one unit, like dangerous gear. Yeah, so thanks, Mark. You're welcome. When it comes to, there's this debate, and there's always been a debate, and there are guys that are going to always influence a lot of people to say, no, you need to buy, as an example, an actual Pultec EQ, right? Well, have you ever seen the price of a Pultec EQ as an example? Those are running anywhere from, the bare minimum, the cheapest I've seen is maybe $6,000. And I'm like, here's the thing when it comes to expensive gear. Here's the thing with expensive gear that this is what I try to preach on this channel time and time again. If you got keep up with the Joneses pockets, you got infinity money, then by all means, go get a Pultec. Go get some Universal Audio 1176s, some Teletronic LA2As, distressors, euphorical lab distressors, API 312 preamps, and need 1073 and so forth. Get an SSL console or an API console. I mean, go for it. Telefunken 251s, which is about 10 grand a piece. Some Newman U47s and U67 mics, which is about $15,000 a piece or whatever, right? Spend that kind of money. If you got John McBride, Blackbird studio kind of money, yeah, sure. But the thing is, plugins and clones, the people cannot hear that. They cannot hear a clone and the real thing. All the audience care about is how good the songs are. That's all the audience cares. The audience doesn't. You will never hear someone, if you make your song, you'll never hear someone come up to you and sit there and say, man, I love how you were running that 5-string P bass with humbucker pickups in it, with the intonation set up on your bass, and those were, and I can hear those weren't even. I'm drawing a blank on the strings. Let's say round strings, running it through a Harkey cabinet. And I love how you put that LA2A compression on it. You dialed in the peak gain. Who talks to you like that? You've never heard someone say, "Oh man, I love the way the vocals shine coming through that 251 microphone." You'll never hear that. They can't hear it. They don't even know what it is. So it's kind of like this. If you can buy a clone, like I got Lin 76s, I got Clark Technic, and I got Lin 76s compressors. Those Lin 76s are about $4.99 a piece. And they sound pretty much identical to Universal 1176s. Why would I spend $2,500 because it says Universal Audio? That makes no sense to me. So I don't see why anyone would need to spend that kind of money. This is the reason why I say this time and time again. If you never got a chance to watch Sylvia Massey, she's a Grammy Award-winning mixing engineer, and she did a video where she had she had one microphone that was probably $30,000, and then she used a bunch of warm audio microphones and did this band session, and it sounded so good with the warm audio microphones. And the warm audio microphones, $799, $899, $699, or whatever you spend, that makes more sense. You get the exact same result, the exact same sound, high quality sound. But there are going to always be people in the industry. There used to be a I call them the gear snobs. The gear snobs will say, well, yeah, the clones, they're sacrificing build quality with lower quality parts. I'm like this. Let's say you do buy Warm Audio for $499. Like, let's say that 87 Warm Audio's 87 microphone. It's the knockoff to the Newman U87. A Newman U87 microphone, cheap, on the cheap side is about $3,000. And let's say that you get the Warm Audio for $499 or $599, whatever the cost is. Even if you only spent $499, let's say you spent $599, let's say something happens to happen to that microphone. I would rather be out $599, send it in to get it fixed, than to be out $3,000. Because high price gear also fails. It does. So I'm just throwing it out there. So Kern says, welcome. Good night, guys. Hi, Mark. Welcome, Kern. Welcome to the chat. Says, hi, Mark. Do you track vocals with a compressor? What's your first go-to compressor and why? Okay. If I have an Avalon, it's a channel strip. You can probably see where I'm pointing at. That's my number one preamp for vocals. But I also do use the 73. Those are Outrons, but those are Neve style preamps. I also track that through I have a Lin 2A compressor down here. It's at the very bottom. Or I'll track through the Lin 76. Or sometimes through the Clark Technique, because I've changed the opto cells in it. So it just depends on what I'm using. But I do track through a compressor through the preamp. And sometimes I use a Tone Beast, which is that Tone Beast right here. So it just depends on the vocals, but I definitely will put compression there because you and I know that some vocalists, or it can be a rapper, but I'm mostly tracking vocalists. They can belt, and you want that compressor to catch some of those peaks, because they always say, well, no, record it and you can fix it later in the mix. No, you want to get the better recording first, then so you don't have to fix so much in the mix, if that makes sense. So John says, yeah, the Lin gear is super close. So it's close. So close it's just silly to get the. Yeah, that's it really is. And even that with plugins, I would say yes. We've seen it between all the go-tos, channel limiteds, tube techs, pull techs, universal audio. I mean, all the ubiquitous gear that everyone have always seen in top studios like East, West, and United, and all this, expensive here, Shadow Hills, and gear like that, and Fairchild 670s and whatever. But who in the world can afford a 670 Fairchild? I'll use the plug-in. I have the IQ Multimedia 670 style. I'll just use that. I guarantee most people will not hear that in a difference in the mix. So Johnson, sorry, I got to bring up Mixbus TV. That guy act like you don't have the latest gear. You can't get a good mix. And Matt, well, there are going to be YouTube channels like that. That's why I've always said, be careful when you're watching some YouTube channels. You just got to be careful. Some of these YouTube channels, they'll try to make you, and you got to remember, you got to, here's a red flag with this. I'll say this. If a person is doing, let's say they're talking about ATC speakers, monitors, and this guy, and everyone knows, if you know how much ATC speakers cost, they're super, super expensive. and the guy's talking about them, review them. Trust me, he's not acting alone with those speakers. He's getting sponsored by ATC to do those speakers. You can best believe that. Then again, some people just have deep pockets like that, but that's how I look at it. I'm like, whenever I see someone and they're always talking about gear that's super expensive, they got some sponsorship going there. So let me see. Let me read some more comments. See. Oh, he said Avalon is sweet. I'm using Avalon. Yeah, to me, it's it's a great, it's an awesome preamp channel strip. There are a few people out there in the industry that Avalon. I just don't even care for Avalon. Don't matter to me. They work well for what I do. Let me see. So Andre says, let me see. Andre says, I learned how to use a preamp and compression by placing them on a subgroup in the DAW, and I try with my voice. Anything that works, whatever works. The great thing about working in your studio and how you do things is there's no exact one right formula. And of course, when you try things, if it doesn't work, not to do that again. That's all. Let's see. Most people start off with most people start off with cheap gear and move. We don't start at Neve or exactly. I mean, because that's in anything. Whenever someone's new to something, and it doesn't matter if it's studio gear, it could be photography gear, it could be whatever. When I start buying all my cameras, I didn't start off with L lenses because I was looking at. They're like, wait a minute, how's that? How much is for that 80 to 200 millimeter lens? An L lens? $7,500. No, I think I'm gonna start with this $300 lens. I gotta learn how to take great pictures first before I start moving to more expensive lenses. So that makes sense. Kern says the KT2A sounds like the FabFilter C2 in clean mode. I don't know why people fight it. The K22A, which I have two of them in the rack. All I did was change the opto cells in it and put the black line T4B. This is the original opto cells that came in those. I put the upgraded opto cell in it, and they sound phenomenal. That's one of Clark Technique's best seller is the K22As. Out of everything they sell, is the K22As. It says, why haven't I made any good talk box VSTs yet? Why haven't they made any? I think they do. I'm not sure. I don't use talk boxes. This is a true story. I have a friend of mine that used to work at Troutman Sound Labs in Dayton, Ohio. And he used to work there when, y'all know if y'all heard the group called Roger Troutman and Zap. And Roger Troutman and Zap, Roger used the talk box to do all his stuff, for everything. You ever go back and listen to Zap. Well, my friend, his name was Eric. Eric is the one that used to build those talk boxes for Roger. So I learned what he was doing, and he showed me what he was doing, but I never could get into talk boxes because to me, it always sounded, I guess it's because it's the 80s. They always sounded kind of generic to me. And, everyone knows about Roger Troutman. He wouldn't do anything without his talk box. And I'm like, it became a crutch for him. So I think it works great in certain instances. Teddy Ridings used the talk box before. So that was his thing. So John said, you guys really need to check out Nebula and Acoustic Audio. They're a lot. I have Acoustic Audio. I do have some Acoustic Audio plugins. I love their plugins. They are processor heavy, but they to me they're phenomenal plugins. They make phenomenal plugins. Just got to make sure you run a super powerful PC or Mac. John said, I was really wondering about Clark Technique. Interesting. Like I said, I have the Clark Technique 76s, and I have the Clark Technique K2As. I also have the Clark Technique. Those are the pull stick towel EQs. I would say out of everything, the 76s are okay. They're not the best. They're okay. You can use them on certain things. But they're K2-2As, and those are really, really good. Those are really, really good. Those are really good. I also have the, you can't see behind my BRC controller, but I also got the Lindale Audio pull EQs as well. Those are also pull textile EQs. Those are definitely going to be better than the Clark Techniques. So, yep. So Kern says, how do you get wide vocals? Do you add side vocals, or do you add just or do you just add chorus plugins? I do multiple things when it comes to getting wide vocals. Like one, let's say I got a set of backgrounds here and here. I also take those set of backgrounds and put them here, panning, and I also use what they call it's called like a Doppler. It's kind of like a plugin. I kind of to spread those, as well as I use a couple of different effect processors on separate channels to get the vocals to sound wider as well. So I also have a harmonizer plugin that I use to get my vocals to sound wide, that I will blend with those as well to get them and to try to space them to get them. Well, I also have a stereo widening that I'll put on the vocals to make them sound wider as well. It just kind of give a bigger, more of a stereo image as I'm listening to the speakers to make them sound a little bit wider. And of course, definitely a reverb, because reverb sound like space. So I'm using either a hall, a concert hall, or a chamber reverb to also add that to make the vocals sound bigger. So those are some things that you can do to get them to sound a little bit wider in the mix. But you definitely want to pan. You don't want to be in mono mode. You want to kind of pan, and you can try that as well. I hope that try that if you haven't tried that. But it's called Waves Make It. It's called a Doppler. Let me see. Let me pull up what the plugin looks like. I'm gonna pull up. Let me pull up. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. It's a really good. It's a really good plugin. So let me. Okay, there we go. All right. All right, let me see here. Yeah. Yeah, let me see here. Audio effects. Yeah, let me see here. Doubler 4. Okay. It's called a doubler. So I'm gonna pull the camera so you can see the plugin. This is what I use on vocals, so you can kind of. All right, you see that plugin right here? That's called a doubler. That's one of my secret tools to. There we go. That's one of my secret tools to getting wider vocals. So let me put that back. All right. So that's one of the plugins that I use, as well as chorus and reverbs and stuff like that, to get the effects that I'm getting, for getting my vocals wide in the mix. So I was saying, I welcome S.A. Krillin. I always used to call you Discreet Studios, but he says I use the same plugin. It's a great plugin. John, yeah, the doubler. It's a good one. Xbox Pro is incredible. Yep. So any of that, any of those type of plugins that can really get your vocals. But here's another trick. Here's another vocal trick. Here's let's say you got a lead vocal, right? On, let's say I'm gonna use channel 17. Another trick is to take that same vocal, run it, and you double it on two different tracks. So that's how we go 18 and 19 as well, the same track. And you can put a delay on both of those two other tracks. And what you can do on your lead vocal here, the next track over, you can take the delay and slow it down a little bit, delay. And then you take the other vocal and speed up the delay by so many milliseconds. And it creates this widening delay, space widening to your vocals as well. That's another vocal trick. As well as adding a little bit of ping pong delay on a delay on another one. So that's another trick that you can do to take your vocals and double the vocals twice and then change the delay on one and change the delay on that. It'll make it a little like 10 microseconds or so many microseconds slower. I can't remember the exact number. And take the other vocal, make so many microseconds faster, and listen to that. You'll be like, wow, it does make the vocal sound. It gives it, but that engineers been doing that for years. Karen said, I use it to, do you ever get a wash E sound from it? It depends on how you manipulate, because it's got, you have a range of modulation. There's a panning effect and everything else on that doubler, as well as a frequency. You have to adjust those to really, to change the effect of how can I explain? I just manipulate it, and I just move, the dots around to where I like what I'm hearing. That's the best way I can describe it. Let's see. Kevin says they say a lot of 80s music was bright because a lot of engineers were overcompensating EQs on records, because after playing them for a while, the top end would fade, and that's not the case for digital. Well, yeah, remember in the 80s, they had to compensate because everything was going to tape. So your brightness was all dependent on your EQ for the most part. So you think about this, tape starts to degrade over time. A lot of times it comes from, a lot of times they have to clean their heads on the tape machine, and everything else, but they had to do that. They were using all kinds of, they were using Clearphonic. They were using, like me, I have the BB Sonic maximizers in the rack, or exciters. I got an or exciter there as well. So different things like that. Anything, because back in like I said, back in the day, it was tape machines. Digital, with the high-end converters that we're using, you don't never have to worry about your high-end fading. It just digital doesn't fade. It doesn't work like that because it's binary. John said, yeah, that's a nice trick. Let me see. I'm reading some more comments. Kevin said but they were new to digital platform and realized they didn't have to use as much. And you remember back in the 80s, also, before we had the type of synthesizers that we got, virtual instruments and like that, most of the 80s music was always recorded with bands. Most of it. You still had some digital, you still had, they were still using analog synthesizers, but they were using, there wasn't the digital instruments, because they weren't like they are today. We're talking the DX7, DX21, DX5, you're talking the old Poly 8000s from Korg, the the Roland, the first Jupiters and Junos, and boards like that, ARP 2600s, Prophecies, all those boards like that. But most of it was bands for the most part. And so it was usually because of bands, they were miking the bands. So, and they would move the mic. The proximity of the mic was your EQ. You want a little bit warmer, you moved it close to the source. It sounded warmer and it lose a little bit of high end, but if you move it forward, it starts to sound a little bit brighter, but it starts to sound a little thinner. So you had to get that right mic placement. That's what they were doing. So let me see. Maddie too. Hey, welcome, Maddie. Welcome. John said the older BB Sonic maximizers I have the 442A and I got the 362, but downstairs I got the 482 downstairs. So, said enjoying the iced coffee, hot day here in Australia. Where's everyone from? So, of course, man, I'm here in Tennessee. So it's pretty warm today. It was about 70 degrees today, but we're going into winter. So, okay. So, Curtis, are you using your new mixer or did you go back to the Behringer? I still have the same mixers. I still got the same Allen and Heath 48 channel. Downstairs is still my Behringer MX 8000. And that's all I got for mixers. I have a little Yamaha 01V digital mixer over there, but I use that as just a mixer for my keyboard rig over there. So get out of here. SS Krillin, you from Springfield? I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Springfield, Ohio, you're right around the corner. Love that. Okay, yeah, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Awesome. I got to go up there and see my mom. So John says I'm in Arizona. So it says I love the SSL video about SSL. They really were butthurt. And I still got, believe it or not, I still got people chiming on that. And the reason I made that because people start getting butthurt about the first one. The first video wasn't called SSL. It was called another mixer that most people can't afford. And I was talking about the little SSX6. And it was basically $3,000 for, you got 2 mic pre's and 2 stereo channels, which everyone knows a stereo channel counts as 2 channels, and yes, it has an interface and DAW controller, mainly an interface. And they were justifying, even though the EQ had fixed EQ. Whenever they do 3-band EQs, they always fix it. The high is always fixed at 12K, mid is always fixed at 2.5, and the low is always fixed to about 100 hertz. What can you do with fix? That's basically buying a 3-band graphic EQ, a notch filter. You can't sweep, like I can come in here and the mid-high and mid-low are sweepable. And that's the point. I want to change the EQ curve to get it to where I want to. The point of equalization is to not always just boost EQ or cut EQ. Sometimes you need to get, okay, I don't want to boost 2K. I need to boost 1.5. So I need to sweep it to 1.5 and change the bandwidth there. You can't do that on the EQ because it's fixed. And they would get people, because they stuck SSL on it. Oh man, SSL, because people heard, they hear about SSL, they hear about need, API. And as long as they put their name on it, then that, it's psychological. I'm sitting there looking at them like there's no way in the world. Have you seen a channel strip out of an SSL, a real SSL like a 4000, you know how much component? I guarantee you don't have the components in that. On top of that, I see how many options you have with $3,000. There's so many options for the same price, including I think I saw an AMEC, which is Rupert Neve design, AMEC consoles. I saw a Big 6 40 channel with 40 mic pre's on it. You get 40 mic pre's, not 2, 40 of them. With all the EQs being sweepable, high, mids, and low, with 8 buses and 6 auxiliary sends for about $2,600. $2,600. Now, again, some people don't have a room for a 40-channel console, but then there's also, you can get for about $3,000, there was the Personas Live, the Midas M32, the Behringer X32, digital mixers. There's Tascam. I sell some Tascam mixers for about $1,000. I saw some Allen Heaths out there for $1,200. 12 channel, 24 channel. You can just get so much more for your money. And as far as the interface, most people have interfaces. 2-channel interface. If you're only recording 2 channels, get an interface. Get an interface. Couple of 2-channel interface. Most of the converters are up to specs, and most interfaces today, they all have pretty much the same converter chips in it. And a DAW controller. You can get something like this fader port, $69 on eBay. Get a DAW controller. Control everything within your DAW. $69, interface couple $100, maybe an Allen Heath console, 20 channels for $800 or whatever. I spent $1,000 and got way more options than to spend $3,000 because it says SSL. So, and the thing is with that, I was also comparing it to how SSL was trying to justify the price of their Origin. I think the Origin is the reissue make of their original 4000, but without all the bells and whistles. They don't have dynamics. They don't have automation. They don't have all the things that came with the 4000. And I'm like, they want $50,000 for that. When I was looking at used SSL, that console, an SSL Origin 30 channel, is a little smaller than my Allen Heath, but they're basically, 48 channels. I paid $400 for this from a church years ago. There's no way in the world I'm going to spend $50,000 on SSL Origin when I can get. If I'm going to spend $50,000, I might as well get. I think I saw some SSL 6000, or I think it was an SSL 6000G. It was $19,900. If I was going to get a console that big, I might as well get the SSL 9000 and get it. Spend another $15,000 and get it commissioned. That's just me. Maybe people, some people don't look at it like I do, but that's how I look at it. It's like, I'm not going to spend that kind of money because of your name. I'm just not. So let me see. I missed some more comments. It says, John said, I got the Acustica with the Amethyst. Yeah, I got that exact same plugin. The Amethyst or the Amethyst Live. I have the Amethyst plugin from Acustica Audio. Love that plugin. And it could be the AMEC 2500 or AMEC 9098. It sounds awesome. Yes, it's basically, you can switch between those two sounds of console. I got that exact same plugin. I use it all the time. So John says the SSL 6 or the Big 6 or pieces of and I can say, don't do it. I'm not going to call it a piece of crap, but I'm going to call it overpriced. I think they're finally dropping the price on it, but you got so many people out there defending that. It just, it is what it is. So I use Studio One a lot, so I may go with Personas Live. Here's the thing. So I may go with the Personas Live. Just remember when you get that Studio Live, when you get the Personas Live, it doesn't connect to connect your DAW by USB. It connects by a network cable. I don't know why they didn't prioritize the software within the live mixer to work coefficient with any other digital mixer that uses USB port. You have to set up a network and then control your DAW through the network. Unlike your fader port, if you bought a fader port through Studio One, like if I activate Studio One automatically sees the fader port, and I can start controlling my DAW. I don't know why the live mixers aren't like that. We got one in my church. My friend, a couple of friends of mine, they got the Studio Live mixers, and you have to use the network. I don't know why the Personas would do that. It make no sense, because you can go buy a Behringer X32 connected by USB, and it will control the DAW. That made no sense. Or even the Yamaha TF or whatever. So just remember that when you considering that. So May 2 is asking, what controller is that? Are you talking about this controller behind right here? Or let me know if you're asking about that controller. Most people ask about that controller. That controller is called a BRC. That is the controller that controls the ADAT machines. I can also control my ADAT hard disk recorder that's in my rack. That is basically a transport basic controller for those. I don't think you were talking about that. I think people always ask about that controller. But that's just a controller for the ADAT tape machines. Kevin says, I think the SS6 was completely analog, but the Big 6 was a digital USB interface. Like I said, all I know is that going back to the SSL, I had an issue with the price. I don't really have a price. I don't have an issue with it as a mixer. But for the price, I think there's just way too many options for the same price. They give you a lot more. For, like I said, you can buy, I think the SL6, Big 6 or whatever, they wanted, or the 6, they wanted 3,000 or whatever. And you're only getting 2 mic pre's. I can go buy a Midas M32 and get 32 mic pre's. You get where I'm going with that. So Kern says, I try vocals sometime with an SSL6 channel. I got a real modern sound with less work in the box. It's bright. Like I said, I don't have a problem with the SSL6 as a mixer. I have a problem with the price, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see. SS Krillin says the SSL nucleus was decent, but they no longer support it. They recently discontinued the Matrix 2. Out of all the SSL, out of all the SSL products, I think they were on to something with the XL desk. That was the desk where you can allow you to put in your own series of 500 series modules. It was about 20 grand, but if you're going to buy an SSL product, at least you can, your own mixer 500 series. I think that was probably the best bang for the buck, because I still think the SSL SWS 900, even 948 they still want $100,000 for that console. And I'm like, why? And SSL, why? I can go buy a Neve VR 60 or a Neve VR 36 channel or whatever, $30,000-$40,000, spend another $15,000, $20 and get a commission, and spend $60,000, then to spend $100,000 on it. I'm not doing it simply because it's SSL. I'm not. So, let me read some more. I see the best small high-end right now is a loaded API or Triton S666. And even API can be pricey. So, yeah, it's okay. But wow, it's worth for about 500. So let me read some more. Let me see. You say, okay, in your API box or the Neve centerpiece or the Tri 66. And there's quite a few options, let me see. He said, "Oh no, I meant the fader port." With that, yeah, it definitely works. It works with Logic. It works with Logic with no problem. Um, if you're thinking about the fader port, yeah, that's the fader port Persona. This is the older one. They don't sell the older ones. They got the new. They come in black now. Um, I use this for my PC. This is actually controlling my Logic in my MIDI controller. Controls Logic. So that's what's great about it. Like if I start, you might let me start. I'm gonna start Logic here. Let me see if Logic starts. Yep, it should start. And I'm going to, yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, it works flawlessly in Logic. So, but that's the reason why I use it, because I can control everything Logic through my MIDI controller. So, all right. So let me see. Yeah, let me see. Some other things was, yeah, the XL desk, Logic desk was a smarter idea. I think so, because if you're going to spend that kind of money, it allows you to put your own kind of options. You know, it allows you to put your own type of options of choices of 500 series in that console. So it was basically the API, you know, because API basically was the inventor of 500 series, which is another thing. It was kind of, you know, had I known what I know now, I probably would have done a lot more 500 series, because you can still get all the high-end gear in the 500 series and not spend that kind of money. So, all right, let me see what else. I had great songs for less price equipment. So yeah, this just depends on what you know. There's so many options, which is it really you know, it really, but what we have today with the choices of gear, plugins, equipment, it's so many options. It's just too bad that the money can't be made in the music industry without an option, because I was talking to one of the producers when we did the album back in the 90s. If we only had what we have now, then, oh man, it blows my mind. So let me see. Okay, so Kevin said, he said the original SS6 sounds pretty good. I'm not sure about the Big Six though. Like I said, I don't own one. I didn't feel it. Yeah, I just felt the price was it was just overpriced for me. That's just me. Okay, man. Yeah, it says that, yeah, the 500 series looks awesome, but it would be a pretty easy way to blow some cash. If I know what I know now, I would have done more 500 series. That's just me. I never really considered 500 series, but now like I'm actually looking at some 500 series, because it's another way to get some gear at a more affordable price without, you know, going broke. So we got the argument. Okay, John is okay. I'm not going to get in between Kevin and John on this SL6. So I just, you know, like for me, I think SSL set the benchmark for their large format consoles. I just think that they let that go to their heads with the name. And now, they, because that's just me. Same thing with Neve. An API, when these companies start putting their name in everyone, it's almost like putting things on pedestal that shouldn't be put on pedestals. And I think this is the reason why all the clone companies snuck right in. It's kind of even Neve. Neve were charging $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, whatever they were charging. And all these clone companies say, okay, you guys want to spend $6,000 on a Neve 1073? Or I can shoot over here and get a Warm Audio or a Heritage Audio or Ventec or one of these clone companies. And let me tell you, millions of people bought the clones and love, like me. I'm loving my 73 clones over there. Love them. So, and of course, John says, Zach, I hate to say this, but I can do more with my Mackie 832. But if you pull up a picture of, let me close this Logic out. Let me pull up the Big 6. I'm going to close this out. Because I ain't seen a Big 6 in years. I didn't even look at them because, okay. I'm going to go to Google. And let's see here. I'm just going to take a look at this SSL Big 6 again. Now, I'm looking at this SSL Big 6. And according to the picture, okay, we got 4 mic pre's. And we got 4 stereo channels. So that gives you a total of 12 channels on it. The EQ on it, okay, you got 2 auxiliary sends, what they call them stereo cues on it. You get 3 EQs, a fixed high, a fixed mid, and a fixed and a low. Usually those fixed EQs are going to be about 12K, 2,500, and about 100. That's typical. And you get 2 stereo Q masters. You get, and this is not the full comprehensive G-Bus compressor, so don't be fooled. They're letting people think that you're getting the full compressor. They're gonna dumb down a lot of stuff. Then after that, other than that, I see a master monitor control, a master output, and that's about it. You're just not getting a whole lot for a mixer for that price point. So that's just I don't think you are. That's just me. So but some people that buy it and they're happy with it, if you're happy with it, in this game, it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks. If you're happy with the gear that you got, that's all that really matters. It's kind of people that dog Behringer. I have Behringer gear. It's just, it is what it is. Some people hate Behringer. I don't like everything Behringer makes, but I don't have no problem with Behringer stuff. So let me read some more comments. Oh, yeah, currency financing allows you to have on a lot of gear without turning your studio into a sweatshop. I had to laugh about that because that is so true. That is so true. I don't know if anyone that's ever been to an actual studio we're talking about the traditional commercial studios where there's a large format console, all the outboard gear and racks, and the 2-inch tape machine and commercial studios like that. All I can say is they have to run a serious HVAC system because all the gear can get extremely, extremely warm. I mean, it's even up here. If I have everything turned on up in here, it can get toasty. It can really get toasty. That's why you have to run the air, because it can get hot up in this joker. And so, yes, that is true. That's why I was laughing about it. Man, it's man said I had the LA 610, but sold it about 10 years. I got one. You can't see it. Let me see. I can see it on my shoulder. Yeah, I got a 610 right there. So they're nice. They're nice preamp channel strips. See, the 500 series are nice. It's like single channel strips for a decent price instead of getting one whole console. Yep. Yeah, they are. I can see how they can be addictive because you can get. I mean, because some rack units can allow you to fit up to 8 pieces in it. You know, some 6 or 8 or whatever. And those, 500 series, $300, $400, $500. Yeah, it doesn't take long. Yeah, you can get GAS with this gear acquisition syndrome real easy, especially with 500 series. So, as Skrilla said, I have no experience with Behringer. Like I said, with Behringer stuff, just remember Behringer used to be low quality. Behringer really, really improved themselves when he actually had enough. When he bought TC Electronics, Tannoy, TC Helion, Midas, Clark Technic, he bought so many, like 12 or 13 companies, and he mixed all those to start making their modern products. Their quality control improved 500%. So, but now I don't have everything Behringer. Like the interface, the MCA, those are decent. Those are really decent interfaces. So I have no problem with Behringer stuff. That's all I can say about Behringer. So, yep. I am looking at 500 series now. I really am. I am looking at 500 series. So many studios got 500 series. It's like the smartest way to go. There used to be this argument with the 500 series that people would claim that if you got 500 series, that because they all shared the same power supply, the quality of the 500 series was diminishing a little bit because they every unit needs to have its own power supply, like you would in a regular 19-inch rack unit. But I don't think that's the case. I think these 500 series racks with a powerful enough power supply that can support all those units, I don't think the sound quality diminishes at all. Not for what I'm hearing and seeing. That's just me. So that's all I can say about it. So I'm looking at 500 series. So other than that, man, I really appreciate y'all always tuning in. This is so great. Man, this is great. I am going to end the chat a little early tonight because I have to do some other stuff tonight. So I'm going to I'm going to read a few more chat responses, then I'm going to go ahead and end it because I have to do some other stuff. But let me see, Johnson. I'm probably going to translate over to 500 series. Yeah. So yeah, it's been great. I really do thanks, John, for tuning in. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in. Man, this is always fun. So it's all about sourcing enough current to be found. Yeah, I think just it's all about it. Is just so many tools. So I said you're right. Yeah. So yep. I really do appreciate everyone tuning in, Paul, and Oh, John's wondering about that Behringer. I had a Mackie that I used to work on in the studio back in. It was the Mackie 32.8 with the 24 channel expansion. I can't imagine that it sounds. I can't imagine it sounds. They would have to sound really, really similar. So I would imagine. I would imagine they would have to sound, because the Behringer, if you want to know how that Behringer sounds, I did a video. I did 2 videos. One is talking about Behringer and the Cakewalk software. That's how that Behringer mixer sound. I also did a video where I talk about what you want to do for love, featuring cheap Behringer gear. I was being sarcastic. If you want to hear how that Behringer mixer sound, go watch those 2 videos. That's how it sounds. And you be the judge from there. Other than that, like I said, I'm going to end the podcast. I'm going to end it because I got to do some stuff tonight, and I'm going to try to keep it a little bit longer. But I'm going to really, once again, I really appreciate everyone tuning in. Paul, John, S.S. Skrillin. Am I saying that right? SSJ Skrillin. I got to make sure I'm proud of Kevin, Maddie, 2 Hats, Kern, everyone that tunes in. I really do appreciate y'all all tuning in and watching. I do this I'm trying to do this every week. So I really do. Tuning in. I'm sorry, Glenn. I'm about to end it. I wish I'm about to end it. Thanks for, I'll be tuning in. You got to catch me again. I'll start this about 8:00 Central Time. So I'm going to be ending it. I've already been on here for an hour, and I got to end it early tonight. So check me out next week. I'll be here at 8:00 next week, and we'll do the chat next week 8:00. So I do appreciate everyone tuning in, and y'all keep making great music, and we'll see y'all all next week. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.